everyone. So today we are going to be doing a sunscreen 101 video, and this is basically going to be a video where I go over the different aspects of sunscreen, the types of sunscreen you should be using, the difference between mineral and synthetic, and then we're going to go into some UV rays, the different types, and how the sunscreen you use protects you against certain rays. So let's get into this video. Let's start off with the different types of rays. So there are UVB rays and UVA rays. So both of the rays are obviously emitted by the sun, and both these rays contribute to sunburn and skin cancer development and tanning and sun damage and all that juicy stuff. But the difference between the two is that UVA rays can actually penetrate through windows. So even though you might feel like you're relatively safe in a car or behind a window when you're in your room or something, like I feel like that way sometimes, but you actually aren't safe and you do need to wear sunscreen no matter where you are. So the next question would be, how do I know my sunscreen is protecting me against these rays? So there are a couple different ways you can tell. When you look at your sunscreen, usually there'll be something that says broad spectrum on it. So I have a sunscreen here, and this is a sunscreen I'm going to show you guys later, but there is something called broad spectrum written underneath of it, and that means that your sunscreen will protect against both UVA and UVB rays. So besides the broad spectrum, you will also see that you have SPF here, and SPF will tell you how long the sunscreen will protect you against UVB rays. It is important that you look for a sunscreen with a higher SPF, but after you pass the 50 SPF, usually all sunscreen remains the same. So if you get an 100 SPF, yeah, that might feel like reassuring, but it's generally going to have the same protection as a 50 SPF. And just because your SPF is higher doesn't mean that you can apply sunscreen once and be done. You still have to continuously apply the sunscreen every 1 to 2 hours. You have 20 SPF sunscreen and 50 SPF sunscreen, they should be reapplied at the same time, every hour or 2 hours. So I just told you that SPF will protect against UVB, and the broad spectrum will protect against both UVA and UVB. So there is another factor that you can look on your sunscreen for, and it is actually called PA. So PA indicates that you are protected against UVA rays. I know a lot of Korean sunscreens tend to have the PA+++ on it, but I usually don't see that here in America. So if you guys know anything about that, definitely comment down below. But I have the Beat Shield here, which I will go over in a minute. But this has PA++++. And basically the PA is protecting against UVA rays. And then you have the pluses at the end, which indicate the intensity of the ray that it protects against. So the more pluses you have, the more protection that you have, essentially. So this has 4 pluses, and that really is a lot of protection there. Usually it's like not that many pluses. Now I'm going to go over the different types of sunscreens. So now we know there's SPF, broad spectrum, and PA that could be in your sunscreen. But what are the ingredients that really go into the sunscreen to make it the product it is? So there are 2 different types of sunscreens that you can look out for. There are synthetic and there are mineral sunscreens. So I'm going to go over synthetic sunscreens first, and synthetic sunscreens are usually the more liked among people who don't really want a white cast on their face or don't want a thicker sunscreen. So synthetic sunscreens are usually pretty thin in consistency, and they don't usually leave a white cast. But the downfall of synthetic sunscreens is people who have really sensitive skin, like I do, cannot handle them. So you know those sprayable sunscreens you can get at a Walgreens or a CVS? Yeah, those are synthetic. And there's nothing wrong with a synthetic sunscreen, because I'm going to show you one that's actually my favorite sunscreen I've ever used. And The thing is, synthetic sunscreens just tend to be a bit more harsh on sensitive skin. So if you have sensitive skin, the synthetic sunscreen, although thin and doesn't leave a white cast, can be harsh on your skin and can cause sensitivity. So like I said before, I have a synthetic sunscreen here, and I believe it is a synthetic sunscreen because I will go over what indicates that you are actually using a mineral sunscreen. So yes, the Beach Shield, obviously I already showed this to you guys before, but the Beach Shield by Crave Beauty is a synthetic sunscreen. I believe so, don't quote me on it. This sunscreen is one of my favorite sunscreens because it does not leave a white cast, it's very thin, and it is hydrating, and it is very gentle on the skin. So unlike most synthetic sunscreens that can cause sensitivity, this does not. It is really hydrating and it doesn't feel like a sunscreen. So the thing with me is that I hate putting on sunscreen, I really do. So it has always been my kind of journey to find the perfect sunscreen that I actually enjoy applying to my skin, and I finally found it with Crave Beauty. I really enjoy applying this on my face. It's like a hydrating moisturizer, but it's very light, and for people with oily skin it's great because it won't overwhelm the oil on your skin, and for people with dry skin it's nice and hydrating enough, and you'll really like putting it on too. Now for people with sensitive skin, mineral sunscreens are usually the way to go. So the mineral sunscreen I'm going to talk about is Tizo. With mineral sunscreen, the difference between that and synthetic is that mineral contains one of two ingredients, zinc oxide and titanium oxide. It can also contain both, but most of the time you'll see either one or the other. But this one does have titanium and zinc oxide. The titanium and zinc oxide give the sunscreen its thick consistency, and it's also much gentler on the skin, so it's not going to cause any sensitivity. But the downfall with mineral sunscreens is that they do leave white casts. So for those of you who have a darker skin tone or just don't like the white cast you see on your face, mineral sunscreens might not be the best choice. But I do have to say this Tizo sunscreen doesn't leave that much of a white cast. It's very small, but if you rub it in enough, it will go away, and it does soak in. It's nice and thick. For those of you who have oily skin, I don't know if I'd recommend this exactly. You could try it out, but it is pretty thick. It's creamy and thick and plush, so it might be a little overwhelming on the skin. It is a good sunscreen. It's not my favorite, but it is a good sunscreen. It does its job. It's protecting your skin. It's really gentle and soft. I used to use this when my skin would just not take any sunscreen at all. It's so gentle. Another cool thing about this sunscreen is that it also comes in a tinted version. So this is the non-tinted, but they do have a tinted tone. It really isn't like a foundation at all. It's just more color correcting and just making your skin look overall even in tone. So that was it for this video. I hope this was pretty informative for you guys. I know spring and summer are coming up soon, so definitely keep this in mind. But whether it be rainy, cloudy, sunny, whatever the weather, you should always be wearing sunscreen no matter what. There's always room for the sun to cause damage to the skin, so it's always important to keep reapplying that sunscreen. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope this video has helped you to feel a bit more comfortable in your own skin. Bye!